So we're in our 2021 F-150 Power Boost Hybrid. And we're pulling a 12-foot trailer that we just emptied. So it's probably 1,500 pounds total. You can't really see it in the mirror, so it's fine. And I think a lot of people have the misconception that when they buy the F-150 Hybrid, they're going to be getting stellar gas mileage. The EPA rating is 24 highway, 24 city. And I think people have it in their minds that, if you're going highway speeds, typical highway speeds, 70, 75, 80, yeah, you're going to be getting the low 20s. And unfortunately, we have had this vehicle for, we put almost 1,000 miles on it in the first week. And you just don't get 24 miles to the gallon or close to it when you're actually going real highway speeds, let alone when you have a trailer. If you're on a 2-lane road going 55, a flat 2-lane road, and you're not having to pass a lot of people, you're not, having to, stop and start for any reason, yeah, you'll get 20, 22. We've actually seen, I think, 22, 23 miles to the gallon. But on the interstate, you're going 70 plus, or 75 or 80. This truck will easily do 90 and above. We're not about to try it with a trailer. You're not going to be getting stellar MPGs. And if the hybrid system isn't being put into action, because the only time the hybrid comes into play is when you're slowing down or speeding up. It can recapture some energy when you're slowing down, and it can put that energy back into the vehicle and to restore the momentum when you speed back up. But that really only happens at slower speeds, or when you're going down steep grades. Like if you're going across the Rockies and you're coming down a steep mountain, yeah, it's gonna the engine's gonna turn off and the hybrid system will charge fully. So you will see some gas savings there, but it's not gonna be a ton. So we're at 8.2 average miles to the gallon, with the cruise set at 70. And it's gonna be like that. We had it at 75 the other day, and we were getting like 6.5 miles to the gallon. So watch what happens. We're getting off the interstate. We're on a pretty long off-ramp. Cruise control is disengaged. We've eased onto the brakes. The engine will cut out, and check out the transmission indicator. It's still in 8th gear with the engine not running. It downshift to 7. We're gonna get back on the gas a little bit to give it, to get it up this off ramp here, but it's still not gonna turn on. And you notice that the transmission will be upshifting or downshifting, and at any time you can get back onto the throttle and it'll operate the vehicle, in 6th or 5th gear with the electric motor. Unlike what you see in something like a Tesla, because a Tesla has a 1-speed transmission. This thing will operate the vehicle in EV mode in whatever gear that the computer thinks is most convenient, knowing that the engine can come back on at any time. I think it's just trying to be ready for that. But, MPGs, if you're expecting stellar MPGs on the interstate going fast, average interstate speed in the 70s or 80s, that's just not the case. You're not going to see much of the effect from the hybrid system, and you're driving something with the aerodynamics of a brick or of your house. And if you're towing a trailer, that makes it even worse. So people coming from an EcoBoost that they maybe traded in for a hybrid, thinking, hey, this is gonna save 25% of my fuel cost, you're setting yourself up for a disappointment, because it's just not going to. Where you will see a lot of fuel savings is in the city, where you're doing stop and go, where you're in stop and go traffic, because a decent amount of the time when you're stopping and then starting up again, it'll the engine will be off. And when you're slowing down, it'll recapture energy. And when you take back off from a stop sign, it'll release that energy back into the powertrain. And so compared to a typical F-150, I don't know what it has as its average MPG in the city, you know, 16, 15. Yeah, this will get you, this could easily get you over 20 MPGs in the city without trying too hard, as long as you don't get too hard onto the throttle or the brakes. You know, if you brake nice and slowly, it'll give you that little badge there that says 100% energy returned. And that means you allowed the regen braking to do its job, and it didn't have to use that much mechanical braking. Because the computer decides how much regen versus how much mechanical braking it's gonna do. And if you're nice and easy on the brakes, then it'll do mostly regen braking, or as much as it possibly can. And then when you take off again, if you're nice and easy on the throttle, it'll allow the electric motor to get the vehicle started again. So yeah, you'll see a very, very substantial fuel saving in the city. You know, at speeds under 40 miles an hour. But when you're up above 40, and definitely above 50 or 60, you know, there's so much damn wind resistance with this thing. It's still a pickup truck. They can't, you know, you can't fix the aerodynamics of a pickup truck to the point where it's gonna be substantially better fuel economy wise than a truck from 15 years ago. You know, they talk about the you know, the retractable air dam in the front, and maybe that helps a little bit. And they also talk about retractable or, you know, adjustable shutters in the grille, and maybe that helps you a little bit, but it's not going to make a substantial difference. Let's see, we're coasting downhill a little bit at what, 35, and at this point it's regenning with the engine off, and we can probably get a decent amount of the way through into our subdivision before it turns back on. But anyway, there it is, just a real short video about what you can expect in the real world from your hybrid F-150. If it had a bigger battery, it could save you a lot more fuel, but the problem with a bigger battery is that it kills your payload, and this thing is already, you know, substantially limited payload-wise. It's a light-duty truck, and, you know, until they start putting the hybrid system with a real hybrid battery into a Super Duty, you know, all you're gonna get is what this thing has, is like a 1.5 kilowatt hour battery. With the F-250 or 350 or a dually, you know, you could get 50 or 60 kilowatt hours. You could put like a Tesla battery into a dually and not even really notice that much because of how much payload it can carry. But the F-150, you know, you got your 1.5 kW hour battery, and so you're not gonna have a ton of fuel savings on the highway. Doesn't make it a bad truck, it just means you need to be realistic with your expectations. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great evening.